teams like an LNG, probably just a giga good pick.
Yeah.
LNG, all right, there's this one champion. He can impale 3 champions.
Yeah.
You should probably ban that guy.
Yes, I would very much hope that we're going to see the Skarner ban right here. If not, though, to be fair, I don't know that JDG would particularly want to look towards it. Obviously, there's no questions of can it be played right here. Zhuo would be absolutely fine on it, but at the same time, they've been much more focused on going towards heavily aggressive pickups right here. Played something like the Nidalee as well, has been more than happy to play aggressive, and if JDG don't decide to grab it, I would love to see WeiWei on this Skarner.
Slam it. There we go.
Just take it.
Listen, LNG, I'm sure they would have loved the Skarner. But again, a facilitator for Shun.
Yeah.
This already looks really good. Alk Battery had said in the past, no more Nidalee games for Shun. So, Bloxer, no. Bad.
Bad?
No.
Hey, but it's fun.
No.
It's
We got to
fun.
get the squirt bottle. You got to get the squirt bottle for the Nidalee, right? Get off the counter. Get out of here. Over on the side of LNG, though, some good early game power, some pick potential.
Yeah.
So, they have some tools. Now, Bloxer, we need to see them use the tools.
Yes, absolutely, but that's the trade that you do for the Skarner, right? You give that one up, but you get 2 of the massive priority picks in the meta at the moment. The Varus has been the strongest ADC in a lot of these fights, and the Vi, I think, has been looking like the best jungler. It's just so proactive, like you said, can struggle a little bit into the Skarner, because you are trying to go so far in, and it leaves you vulnerable to getting caught with that Impale early on. But still, it gives you a lot of chase, especially onto a carry like the Ezreal. Ezreal for Peyz has been a great look for him as well. Another one of those ADCs we've been seeing a lot for how safe it is going to be. I would like to see Missing on something aggressive right here. I think he's looked really good on things like the Nico. There were a few bad games, though, for Missing on some more of the engage support type champions.
Talia getting locked in here for JDG. See what the call is for LNG. Definitely a lot of hovers, a lot of good options. We saw Orianna was a hover. Orianna Vi, pretty good. Aurora Vi, usually the combo of choice that everybody really likes just because of the sheer amount of damage that comes through once the Vi drops rolled.
I could see the Ari being locked in this situation just because it is a little bit safer. It's a perfectly good matchup into the Talia. You're very unlikely to die in the laning phase. And it gives you so much roam potential to be able to follow the Talia even when she's got that Weaver's Wall available to her. Works pretty well alongside the Vi as well. And this is the kind of composition right here out of LNG that can find a pick very easily. If you're able to hit the Chains of the Corruption, maybe a Charm, maybe the Vi just goes flying in with that ulti, all of a sudden you can turn these fights into 4v5s and that'll make it a heck of a lot easier to play out. Right now, though, they are struggling a little bit in terms of just having some front line to be able to absorb damage by time. You still got the support, though. Zhuo can pick up some of these big tanky champions still there. Although we are beginning to run out of them a little bit. Leona and Rel are the 2 remaining engaged supports that have been very strong.
Yeah, and I think Leona would be pretty nice for LNG here simply because you get to lock down the Skarner. You not only have to worry about the Skarner Impale, but everything else you can do in a team fight, right? So if you're in melee range, you say, hey, I'm going to lock you down all game long. And Zenith Blades, Shield of Daybreaks, just keeping you completely stun locked. It would also be a very nice long-range way to start fights. You land the Solar Eclipse, and then you have the Chains of Corruption come through. The fights are all yours at that point. K'Sante getting taken out here by LNG is a champion that, thankfully, Bloxer, we haven't seen as much of because, man, he can do some crazy things, but I hate that champ so much.
Oh, it's been so strong when it does get picked up right here, although, yeah, taking it off the board definitely makes this a little bit more interesting. I think the Renekton going 2 means that we might get quite an aggressive top lane matchup potentially. The Gwen's still available. The Ambessa, something that's also been picked up a lot recently. LNG, they still need to pick themselves up as support and a top laner. I'd be very surprised if they don't take the top laner here, because as much as blind picking top laners isn't everybody's favorite thing to do, and Best is still absolutely fine in this situation, and I think being able to get yourself a stronger bot lane matchup here will be really impactful for them.
Not only that, fits in with the pick comp that you have here with the public execution. Now, JDG wouldn't be too surprised if they respond with a standard engage support and a Gwen here. You know, give something, to be able to enable this Gwen, and this could be a flex pick. Don't know if we've seen Ala play it. It is possible. Ezreal Karma is a strong 2v2.
So much poke. Yeah, that's the thing. When you've got that counter pick of the support, this means that you're kind of just opting out of this bottom lane. You can try to go for something else, more pick potential back. something like the Renata could still go down into that bottom lane. But with this Ezreal Karma, there's just so much poke in that bottom side. You're more expecting to just have to abandon Photic to be pushed in most of the time, try to get him involved in the team fights later. And it's going to be the Jax locked in right here. We've seen Jax and Bessa a lot. The Jax can come out on top in these matchups. You have to be a little bit careful. Once you hit level 6, there's a possibility to get pulled under the tower, and that can make it very tricky to play this one out. But Arla, Jax, paired with the Skarner, I love that as a combo here.
Yeah, it could be a little tricky to play in the team fights too, just because it feels like LNG's comp can play from different ranges and spread themselves out. But LNG going to round it out nicely with the Rel. So you're going to have the 3-man engaged team of Ambessa, of Vi, and Rel. Really good way to tie things together. If you're able to catch Peyz mispositioning, but more likely Scout and missing a guy who we've much maligned. He's had some problems. Really has no way of getting out if he gets engaged on. We could see LNG get some leads early on.
Absolutely. It very much is going to be on LNG to drive the pace of this game because the later game team fights are going to be incredibly tricky for them. They're going to get a lot of poke down in this bottom lane RJDG, so I like this pickup of the Rel for Zhuo and just say, hey, get out of this lane. Go pair up along with WeiWei and try to gank onto other lanes, get involved elsewhere on the map, skirmish around for these objectives, and try to drive the pace of the game that way. Because once we get into these team fight situations and you've got a Jax and a Skarner jumping at you, oh boy, you'd better hope as Photic that your friends are going to be there to support you.
Yeah, there's going to be so much disruption. And Photic might just be the sacrificial lamb. He might just be like, yo guys, they got me. Everybody else carry, because you have an Ambessa and you have an Ahri that's able to slip and slide around. Again, if they go with this more tanky build, he can stay in a fight for a really, really long time and really outlasted the JDG composition. But we talked about Zika being a guy that you can hang your hat on, really one of the feature players of this LNG team. He's not in a dreadful top lane matchup, so he should have some opportunities to, in these team fights, not be behind and really take over a game.
Yeah, what we're looking for from these teams is more than 6 kills out of LNG. Can they just put themselves together an okay early game? From JDG, though, we're looking for absolute domination. They shouldn't allow LNG to do anything if they want to set themselves up for success for the rest of the day.
We'll see if Shun's Skarner is going to be the undoing of LNG. This is that champion. Still a 100% win rate. And typically we've seen a lot of Zyra into it, just because you're able to clear so quickly and maybe get an early step over the Skarner, but not so here with the Vi. So Bloxer, I am interested how you foresee this jungle matchup going.
I think it very much depends on if these two are going to match each other on pathing or are going to go separate ways, because the counter gank potential out of Zhuo is very strong. Same sort of thing for WeiWei. And in that situation, it's kind of going to depend on who ends up getting there second. Being there a little bit later on, having all of your tools available perhaps once your opponent has already blown them. In that situation, I think the Vi can be a little bit stronger earlier on, but the Skarner is much better later. So it will be interesting that way. If they're on separate sides of the map, then all of a sudden it's just about who can keep the pace higher, who can make their ganks stick that little bit more, because both of these champions gank so incredibly well. It's very much about making the absolute most of that and being able to drive your lanes forwards, because I think if either of these junglers just sit back and are going to be too passive in this early game, they're going to do their team a real disservice.
Both junglers starting on the top side. JDG going to have a little bit of vision down on both jungle entrances to be able to see wherever WeiWei may be. Missing and Peyz already doing what their bottom lane does, really looking to take this early power out of the Varus.
It's just so unfortunate as the Varus in this matchup, because in most matchups, you actually win out in the poke battle. Not in this one. You're just going to get pushed around. So yeah, this is what I was saying, right? There's a way where you can step up a little bit here. Oh, misses the Vault Breaker. That's not good.
Oh, that puts him in a real awkward spot, too. You can see the pings coming down. Ala has control of the lane, so he's at least shading down, but it looks like... Yeah, they'll just be like, you know what? I respect it. I'll leave. You can leave my jungle, and I'll go in yours.
Yeah, but that's rough, because I don't think WeiWei actually managed to pick himself up that camp. I think that the Gromp was picked up right there by Zhuo. Yeah, indeed, because he was able to pick up the walls and the Gromp. And so WeiWei, he's now losing out on this one pretty massively. We'll have to track to see if he's actually able to get right here into JDG's jungle to steal something away. Zhuo
Yep, already
Yeah.
looking for Haichao. Haichao
Oh,
flashed
no.
right into it. First blood for Shu.
Oh no. That's not a good sign for the rest of this game right here. And this is the other thing, right? This is the other thing that LNG have been running into, is the communication's just not there. Because what should have been happening there is you say, hey, the Skarner just saw me invade, saw me have to leave, stepped up, so you know that the Skarner has stepped up to likely go and try to steal away a bit of your jungle, has been delayed. It means that a gank is very likely in this situation. Wasn't communicated properly. Haichao's two-stepped forwards and flashes right on into it. It's just so rough right here. I mean, watch the flash, right? You get hit by the seismic shove. Already not ideal. It's a predict out of Jun. It's nice, but like, as Haichao, you just can't do that.
He was downloaded, bro. June downloaded this man before the game started, and man, that's just gotta feel so bad too, because now as Haichao, you're a little bit behind. You know, you've lost your teleport, you've lost your flash, you're down a little bit in EXP. It means it's gonna be that much harder for you to hit level 6 and make plays with your Vi. It allows more time for JDG to get a little bit more resilient.
And this is off the back of the proactive play out of WeiWei, right? He was trying to get something done. You do skirmish a little bit more effectively at level 2 than the Skarner, so could potentially have stolen away the Gromp, stolen away the blue buff, maybe gotten a kill. All of that would have been great. And instead, just isn't able to do anything. I mean, look right now. Ola is pushed this far up with no vision, and WeiWei does not feel comfortable coming into this lane and trying to actually get a gank off. That tells me a lot about the way that this early game has already gone for LNG. It's not over. It can't be over this early on into the game. There's still plenty of League of Legends left to play. But LNG, they're just a team with so many problems at the moment. I just want to see something from them. I want something to get excited about.
Yeah, that was probably one of the saddest things that I have ever seen. And, you know, it just compounds because of that rough early game for WeiWei. You know, it just like prime opportunity, prime gank real estate here. And you just don't have any confidence to be able to make that play. Is really a microcosm of the problems that LNG is having.
Yeah, the most gankable a top laner's ever looked, and it doesn't happen right here, unfortunately. For JDG, they're going to be pretty happy with the way that the early stages of this game have gone. We've got a Mountain Drake up and available, and the Grub's going to be spawning in about 30 seconds time. In fact, so much do JDG want these Grubs that they have decided to actually swap their bot lanes around. Now, this should be dead. Riot told me this was dead. However, on my screen right now, our bot lane in top.
Yeah, Photic teleported up there. He elected to take that summoner for this game. Not really a huge surprise given the fact that Cleanse isn't going to get you a ton of value here. Maybe Barrier would be good against this poke team, but you know, I respect it for quicker rotations. Get there first, set your feet. WeiWei is going to start up this dragon on the bottom side and see JDG sniffing around for these Grubs.
Yeah, JDG very much going to want to go towards these ones. They've got pretty good tower taking. Again, the Jax loves to be able to sit on a side lane with these Grubs. So it makes a lot of sense to JDG to pick this one up. Good response out of WeiWei to know that this is happening. You know, with the push that had been happening early on from Arla, it was possible that he wasn't actually going to be able to do this, but there's not really any rotation going through at the moment. I think also on the side of the teleport for Photic, in this matchup where you're constantly getting poked out so much, it's very likely you're going to have to go recall more often.
Well, here comes Scout, and Zhuo is stuck under this turret. There are so many minions that Photic is losing here. He's only level 4. Peyz is going to shift forward and just choke this man out. Here comes Shun through the wall, slamming him up. Haichao trying to come in a 1v3 right now, looking for good damage onto Shun, but he gets caught. He's got to flash out, but luckily WeiWei able to bail him out. But now WeiWei's in the middle of a 3v1. Zhuo can't do anything to help him. WeiWei goes down, stuns are there. Peyz is low, he falls as Haichao really lasts a long time in this fight. One more auto attack, and he finds missing. Will he be able to do anything to Scout? Not quite. And Scout, stunned, still alive, lives, gets the double, 3-0-1.
Oh my lord. The sneaky MVP in that team fight was the minion wave for LNG, because both Peyz and Scout had a ton of Qs blocked by the fact this second minion wave arrives right here. This is a bit of an odd play out of JDG. This is what we've been talking about with them not quite having the identity ready. They send multiple members up into this top side, but they don't pull the trigger immediately, and it buys more than enough time for the rest of LNG to arrive. Now, look at the minion wave. So many Qs are getting blocked from everybody right now from JDG, and it means that LNG, they're just able to survive this little bit longer. Of course, they still do end up coming out just about behind on this one, and there's a big minion wave that's just completely lost for them in the top side. It's still a good play out of JDG, but it's nowhere near as well executed as you would expect.
Yeah, and another big thing about that was Peyz had to be in melee range of WeiWei. That's why Peyz ended up being so low at the end of that fight. But luckily, Scout was able to do his former team pretty dirty there. Now 3-0-1, really strong, and already we've seen JDG use their tools with this Skarner that really should have been banned, and Scout with the Weaver's Wall to make big plays. And on the LNG side, again, nothing. I mean, look at this graphic. You've already lost the game. He's 4-0. He's about to be 5-0.
Yeah, I mean, giving over the Skarner. I get it for the counter picks still, though. Zika gonna have to flash away from Scout. Just about gonna be able to survive this one. Is this gonna be another interesting attempt at a dive out of JDG?
Do it.
I mean, you can see there's 3 people here. Do not do it. Do not do it.
Yeah, do it.
They're gonna do it.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen, right? You've got multiple members. It's a 4v3. Missing is here, maybe to lay down some poke, but it doesn't look like they'll elect to just take the drop away and make WeiWei's life a living hell.
Let's go, JDG, making good decisions on the map. Love to see it. Like I said, Haichao also going to be able to pick up a little bit of plating on the backside of this fight. Another minute until the next set of grubs are up. Now, this one's going to be very interesting. JDG, they pick up the first 3. They also roam their bot lane up to ensure that that was going to be picked up for them. Do they rotate the bot lane up again? I wouldn't be too surprised to see that, because getting all 6 grubs would be huge for a team composition with a Jax in it.
Yeah, and not only that, with this poke in the bottom lane, you're going to be able to soften up a lot of members. Like, take a look at this example. They're both backing here on LNG, are the Vi and the Ambessa, right? Later on, that poke, all of a sudden you get to stick around. You get a couple of pot shots on that turret with your auto attacks. Yep. Not like Ezreal's a long-range auto attacker. You're going to get so much value there. So with Vax coming through, we're seeing missing deploy on mid here. So it does look like JDG will head up. Look to secure full 6 grubs, as you mentioned.
Yeah, rotating everybody up and around to this play right now. There's not too much not happening for LNG either. They are also going to bring multiple members around. Zika is in the bottom lane, does have teleport, so do Arla, so we might end up seeing a 5v5. There's no real potential flank wards too much. There's one potentially right here for LNG. I don't think anybody's really going to want to go flying in on any of these. In the 4v4, JDG would be stronger, especially if you can land a big ulti right here from Zhuo. Right now for LNG, I think it's important for them to just try to at least take one of these away. Don't give over all 6.
I just don't think it's a possibility, Bloxer. There's too much vision for
Haichao.
JDG. And one thing I really want to point out is LNG, you know, we mentioned, hey, they've got this pick comp, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, they haven't been able to action on it at all.
No.
And I think a lot of that has to do with Missing has yet to put himself in a bad spot. You know, obviously there was that fight up top where he ended up dying. He played that pretty well. Yep. But this is a guy who has been an exposable player so far. Against a pick comp, he had to be shaken in his boots, but has really done well to not get himself picked off. It's still early. It's still possible for him to have that happen, but it's encouraging. We're learning.
Yeah, in the great newspaper article we had, Missing, where is he, right? Well, actually, in this game, it looked pretty good so far. I feel like JDG are about to run this back.
It's JDG found, although we're going to see Zhuo engage. Scout's going to look to ride the wall. Zhuo surviving for a long enough time, but not enough damage coming down on key targets. Why did they think they had the damage for this fight? Allah teleports in, but now he's on the wrong side of the tracks with Missing. Photic is going to land the root. Allah with the counter-strike, he's only going to be able to stun 1. And, all right, can he make the great escape? This would be absolutely incredible, but the arrow to the back takes him out.
Yeah, well, this is the other side of JDG at the moment, right? Despite the fact that the highs are high, the lows are head-scratchingly bad. Again, they go for the dive top lane, but despite the fact that the first one was a bit of a mess, they bring less members to this top lane fight. They don't set it up nearly as well. They don't have nearly as big of a minion wave to potentially look for the dive either, and so you're just getting yourself caught out right here. This isn't even a great wall. It kind of just brings everybody in. Jun gets taken out right at the very beginning of this fight, and once you lose the Skarner, that is so much of your teamfight ability just gone. The rest of the chase down becomes very easy right here. The fact you also end up giving over the kills to some of these key carries. Photic grabs this one on a great piercing arrow right at the very end. Means that it's just such a bad fight right here out of JDG. And LNG, I'm very impressed with their response to this one. They recognize that it was a terrible fight for JDG and play it out very well.
Yeah, and big shout out to WeiWei there. As soon as he saw Scout, he's like, target acquired, right on top of him to disrupt him. Really need Talia to get their feet set in a fight, start really getting these big rocks coming through on the work ground. Wasn't able to do that there, and now JDG setting themselves behind a little bit. We're even here at 13.5 minutes. LNG, after a bit of a rough start, doing well here to ensure that they're still in the game. Yes, they did lose 6 scrubs. Yes, they lost the second dragon. Again, we are not looking for LNG to win this game, although there's potential now. We're just looking for them to use their tools well, and so far, not too bad.
Yeah, that was a decent play for them. The fact that the gold is pretty much even right here at 40 minutes, I think is an overall win for LNG. This is going to leave me with questions going forward. Let's see, LNG actually stepping up right now, feeling confident enough to be able to step to JDG's jungle, make it a little bit uncomfortable for them right now. They do need to be careful about not potentially getting pincered right here.
Haichao is having a tough time against the man whose shoes he's needed to fill. Yeah. He's got good numbers, sure. He's 3-2-3. He is going the Malignance build. But, you know, just seeing that is tough. You really need him to stand tall if LNG is to be successful.
Yeah, especially because you're going to have push from Ala. If you could also get this much push through from Scout, I mean, he's just teleported back and takes a big chunk of damage as well. It's going to make defending these side lanes so tricky. I mean, what are you going to do if you can't send just one person to deal with the Jax, and you now can't just send one person to deal with the Talia? Makes these 1-3-1s incredibly appealing and easy to play out for JDG. They are certainly not out of this game. They've not put themselves into the best spot throughout this early game. Still, not going to be the end of the world. Now, anytime I'm seeing JDG in this top lane section, not again.
They've played these games before, Bloxer.
Not again.
They've played these games before. Although on the bottom side, maybe LNG can make a play. WeiWei down here. Trying to go after Ala. Going to use his ultimate. Well timed there. Perfect plays on the bottom side. Haichao not able to survive, I don't think. This is going to be tough. Zhuo is trying to link up with him. Trying desperately, but he's tethered. Has to drop his ultimate. The wave is in. They're just waiting him out now. What a predict by Scout. Haichao, like I said, Jun shared the download with Scout. Perfect predict.
Yeah, just gets caught right there. Haichao, really unfortunate. But I mean, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was almost always going to die in that situation. The unfortunate thing is that's going to be first tower that ends up falling in favor of JDG. But LNG, they still get themselves a kill down in the bottom side of the map. They trade a tower back for themselves, and they keep the gold very well even. In fact, a tiny little lead for them at this point in the game. This is a very different LNG than we saw previously. Maybe they just needed the first round robin to shake off a bit of the rust. At least get themselves back into this one. Even if they lose after this early game, I'm still going to have good things to say about LNG. Something I wouldn't have been able to say after the first round.
And the problem is they really don't have any control over any of these objectives, right? So Rift Herald is going to be taken by JDG. This will present a problem later on. JDG, as long as they utilize their Herald properly, they'll be in good shape. LNG is on the way. They're looking to catch missing. The very catchable missing. And they did it. They got him done. The man is still on the wanted poster.
Poor
Last
guy,
seen inting on Karma.
And again and again and again. It just keeps on happening. And JDG...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. They didn't even get a win against EDG, who were incredibly beatable last split as well. Yeah, just not a good look for LNG. Such a storied organization, and for it to have such a bad time. really has not been fun to see. But hey, this game, they're up in kills, they're up in gold by just a little bit. It's a pretty good look for them early on. The next big test is what can they do in these team fights, because as much as we've been talking about this being an LNG pick-based composition, and they've been playing it well like that so far, at some point, you have to show up to team fights. And that point may well be in about a minute's time. We've got an Infernal Drake spawning, would be very appealing to both of these teams to grab themselves an Infernal Soul.
Yeah, and you know what? This LNG team can scrap a little bit. Their pick tools are also team fight tools, right? With the Varus ultimate, with Rel going in too. Like, this is all very good. Zika can use his to get in the middle of a fight. I mean, you know, we haven't really talked about him, but he is the guy that LNG could rely on. He's 2-0 right now. He's got 2 items. Ala hasn't really been able to do much. A 30 CS lead as well.
Yeah.
Like, if LNG, they're actually in a pretty good way to win this game. We just have seen Mbessa's miss the public execution and have a hard time getting in fights. If he lands them in the next big fight, we could see LNG maybe take full control of the game.
Yeah, but it's also easier to land the public execution if you get to do it in combination with somebody else. I don't necessarily think that Zika needs to be the person initiating the team fight. Zhuo can do that, Photic can do that, everybody on this team can do it. Combination with the Vi is incredibly strong. You can just ult in, and then the second that you know exactly where your opponent's going to be, use that public execution, and there you go. That could be a nice quick kill. Because exactly as you said, gonna be doing a lot of damage right here on this 2-item Ambessa. There's 2 items that are gonna keep him a little bit safe in these team fights, but still gonna be pretty squishy. You don't want to be sat in the backline as that initial engage.
Rift Herald got used in the mid lane for JDG. This has allowed time for LNG to go take the dragon, their second of the game. We did see Shun show his head up on the top side. We see a lot of pings going down on the top side. Shun is going to look to catch out Zhuo, and he's going to find Zika too. This could be problematic. Zhuo's got to go over the wall. He, much like missing, has had a lot of problems, and he will fall. Scout flying through, looking to attack Zika here. He won't be able to get anything more.
So what's happening on the rest of the map right here for LNG? They've got to push onto the mid lane, and actually Photic is going to stay, try to pressure onto this tier 1 mid, and there's tier 2 pressure going down in the bottom side right now between WeiWei and Haichao. I don't know that they're actually going to be able to pick themselves up this full turret, but actually they're turning it into a little bit of a base race right now. JDG, they know they can keep pushing, yeah.
We saw this last game, but we saw it used by LGD, not to the greatest effect, but we'll lose the tier 2 in the bot lane, but no tier 2 in the mid lane that went down. Just the tier 1, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the tier 1's still standing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the tier 1 does still stand mid lane. It makes it a lot better right here for JDG, because remember in the last game, it was the tier 2 bot lane and the tier 1 mid lane that ended up falling. They didn't grab nearly as much for themselves, did LNG. But still, you don't lose the inhibitor, so it's not the end of the world to miss out onto this one. Oh, have a look back at this one. Zika should not have stepped back up, right? Just needed to keep walking. Instead, steps in, just gets tagged on the edge of that impale right there. Has to lose the flash as well. And as much as Ambessa is a highly mobile champion, having the flash is a big part of being able to actually use her in a team fight.
Yeah, you have infinite dashes in your kit, so you'd love to have one more dash, right? You know, everybody likes more dashes, but
of course,
without that,
extra positioning
just means it'll be that much harder. Right now, 21 minutes into the game, still a slight gold lead for LNG. They really want to knock down one of these mid turrets. I think both of these teams really interested in knocking them down, because now some people say mid turret is fake. Some people say it opens up the map more. Bloxer, are you a mid tier 1 is fake or a mid tier 1 is the truth kind of guy?
Mid tier 1's the truth, absolutely it is. Especially at the moment where there's objectives left and right. If you can grab it early on into the game, if you can really pressure onto that one, even pre-Rift Herald spawning, then it completely opens the map up for you. I think later on into the game, it doesn't matter quite as much. You're much more focusing around these very coordinated objective timers. Everybody's at Baron around the same time. Everybody's at later Drakes when they spawn. But early on, I think it's definitely the truth.
Shout out Photic. Serpent's Fang completed for him. So
like
really realizing that, hey, I'm not the guy in this game. My job is to hit ultimates and break some shields.
Yeah.
So, you know, good stuff there. We see JDG looking to get aggressive in this river, looking to just corral the jungler and the mid laner of LNG. But over in the mid lane, I mean, Photic has had a rough time too. This poke starting to weigh heavy.
It is. Now, obviously, we have seen. Hang on, Shun, is he fine? Is he fine?
He's so fast.
Every time Shun steps up, I'm worried for the lives of LNG members. But no. Atakan has been up for a little bit. Neither of the teams particularly pressuring around that one. I agree with that. I think it's so easy to throw around the Atakan that it's often better to just sit and wait for a good play to happen before you go for it. Mid lane tier 1 actually is going to fall. Yeah, that last grub just about able to get it. It really is grub stiff, and that does open things up. Obviously, a little bit later on into the game, not as strong as it would have been earlier. Jun, I think he can just step here. I think that's what he wants to do, at least. He thinks he can just step up at some point.
Good attempt on the seismic shove there by Scout. Nothing doing there as the crab has been secured. A minute and 10 seconds until this Infernal Dragon is up. We'll see what the next move is for JDG. Because LNG, if they're able to snag this, all of a sudden they'll be on Soul Point. Infernal Soul Point, you'd love a little bit of extra damage on this composition. It'll just mean that much more for a champion like Ambessa. We saw Ambessa go crazy in a team fight a couple of days ago on the bottom side of the map after securing Infernal. It was the, I think, Brien's almost 10k team fight, so
yeah.
Could see a repeat of that if that's the case.
Absolutely. And this is just so close for a matchup we're expecting to be a complete stomp. We needed this to be a stomp for JDG. We needed them to just completely dismantle LNG. I was a little bit worried, though, that they'd be looking past them. You see it all the time in these competitions where you've got 4-team groups and one of the teams just doesn't look as good. Well, you're playing everybody today. You need to prepare for everybody, so it's easy to look at LNG and go, we're just better than them, we'll move on. And then get caught out. If they lose this one for JDG, it pretty much locks them out of being that top seed. And it also completely changes things for LNG, makes it so much less likely that they're just going to be straight down into that group Nirvana. Really want this one. WeiWei getting jumped here.
Yeah, here comes Scout too. Zika is completely cut off, but WeiWei is able to flash away. Teleport coming in from Haichao here.
Everyone's here.
Yep, he's got that Banshee shield as the Dragon is now up. JDG complete control of the river. What can LNG do to find a way in? Peyz got chunked pretty hard there. The shields aren't going to help you out if they're not on top of you quite yet. Ping's going down, peeled back to the Dragon. It's started up. Allah looking to back, but he does have teleport. LNG looking to wade their way in this river. 6,000 HP. WeiWei over the wall, ready to go in. Down to about 4,000 as Haichao is up front. Misses the first charm, but has corralled himself in the pit. Allah, that teleport in, is on the backside. Zika wants a way in, has his ultimate too. Down to about 3,000. It's a chess match here. Shun is stepping up.
Oh!
Wants to secure it, and it's secured by the Varus.
Oh, it's stolen!
And Shun whiffs his ultimate. This is LNG's time to shine. WeiWei target's missing. Haichao pushes forward. Zika's dashing in because his flash is back up, and JDG are falling apart. Shun's health bar getting low, but the backside, it's Scout. It's Allah who's healthy. He hops on Zika. Scout needs to try to catch up, but the counter-strike is not going to stun. It's a double kill for the Ambessa. Can LNG escape as Scout is on his surfboard riding around, forces the flash out of Haichao?
Oh, and they're still going to chase this one. Zika's actually stopped walking. They need to run away here. LNG, there's no tower to fall to.
Scout flashes over the wall looking for Haichao. Haichao catches the Ezreal ultimate. They're so low. Throw another rock at this glass house, and the seismic shove shut down for Allah.
Oh, and it looked so good for LNG until the point at which Peyz just opens up the guns, is able to get so much damage down in that team fight. And despite the fact that they lose the Drake, JDG still come out on top.
Damn. LNG
I'm so excited.
So good there. All right, there's a couple things we can hang our hat on. First of all, Photic. Gumayushi cosplay.
Yeah, nice. Nice steal. Watch Zika here. Watch Zika. Whoops. Not ideal to miss the Ambessa ulti right there. Did not manage to land the public execution. Yeah, exactly like you said, landing it by itself is pretty tricky. Actually, we're on Baron at the moment. JDG, they've just straight up started this one.
Take a look at the picture-in-picture here. Because we could see another steal potentially.
Another steal.
Photic is nearby. We see Juni's taking the blast plant over the wall. Teleport coming in for Zika here. Haichao, he's got to hoof it over. We see Jax over the wall, at least trying to stop the Varus. Here we go. Vi's getting into the pit, but it is suppressed. The smite is secured, and LNG are falling to pieces. Allah gets to the back line with the counter-strike. He won't even die. He goes golden, baby. And here comes the Weaver's Wall. Scout will find Photic, but he'll get caught up in Ambessa ultimate, but he goes golden too. And LNG are just unable to do anything here. JDG finally able to crack the resolve of LNG. The inhibitor is falling in Bloxer. I think this game may just be over.
Yeah, this should be the end right here. 27 minutes into the game. Zika gonna do what he can. There are respawning members. Zhuo back up. 13 seconds on WeiWei. But it's just not going to be enough. Zika gonna fall.
What are you doing?
He wants to get extra stats right here. And there it is, JDG. They're going to be able to step past LNG, but it was not as clean as we would have wanted.
Yeah, it was not pretty. And LNG showing some real good fight in them. Like, I respect it. It is very hard to escape the clutches of a Jax and of a Taliyah, especially when you're running through the jungle and Taliyah gets the slide around, the extra movement speed, the seismic shove in close quarters combat. You know, but because of the way they ran, that was the only way they could go. And that really sunk them, set them behind for the next play. And JDG, listen, you give them an inch, they will take a mile.
Indeed they will. In the end, that play that ends up taking the top lane tier 2, 3, and inhibitor completely changes the game. Because if they have those towers there, you can't chase all the way through. But they don't. They've missed out on those, and it really did mean that the chase was just on for JDG. Now, this was supposed to be the easiest game of the day for JDG. They were supposed to just dismantle LNG. LNG were a speed bump, and not even particularly a big one at that. Except that's not the case. I was very impressed with LNG. I gave them the task of trying to get more than 6 kills this game. They were able to do that very easily. And they felt like they were in it until the very end. They just weren't quite able to get enough damage down. They'd fallen behind a little bit too much in a couple of lanes. But still, very impressive from LNG. And it's left me with more questions than I came in with for JDG.
Yeah, I think a couple of big things. So number one, we have Shun on a facilitator. You know, he did miss that one ultimate in the fight where LNG started to really come back into the game. But overall, actually played a pretty good game. Scout being a facilitator as well for the team, able to move around. Maybe this is the role for him in this team. But still, a couple of problems. Ala, later on in the game, really good. Early on, not so good. Was down in CS. Was 0-2. Was not making an impact. And then missing, while they had this great poke, just caught out a couple of times still.
Yeah, unfortunately, just seems incapable of not having that happen at some point during games. Like, just love stepping up in situations where you're like, why? Like,
if we have a second, can we pull exactly everything we saw on missing for the newspaper graphic? I don't know if we still have the opportunity to do that, because we got to see, you know, every little detail about this man. All right. Date of birth, 5/26/2001. Age 24. Eyes brown, hair brown. Yeah, that's definitely him. Don't know his height because he sits a lot. He was heavy AF in Split 1. Kind of heavy in this game.
Yeah.
And last seen now inting his face off on Leona. Perhaps a couple of times on card.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such an interesting split right here for Missing, where it's been, hey, the Nico game was great. That was a good look.
Yeah.
Every other game, especially on these slightly squishier champions, the engage ones where he's being asked to step up a little bit more, there's been some question mark pings coming through from me at least. Hopefully he's going to be able to clean that one up, because as much as having a support that dies a little bit too much, it's not the thing that's going to sink JDG right here. But once they come up against better opponents, once they play against, I don't know, a team like IG, all of a sudden, things start looking worse for this team. If you can't find ways to get vision for your team without also giving them a kill every time, well then you simultaneously are giving them extra gold, and your team still doesn't have the vision that you potentially need to play these team fights out. It's been a little bit rough for JDG's bot side so far. That being said, in this game, unfortunately for LNG, it didn't matter.
And take a look at the damage spread. While the KP was low for Photic, Photic certainly putting in work. Big respect to him, and a tough game to play. Bloxer, I have to ask you, you know, Skarner, they left it open, did LNG. We said it could have been a mistake. I think it was, although it wasn't like, wow, look at all these Skarners that never die. I think June played admirably on it. What do you think? Do you think that that was a large reason of the loss here, or do you think it would have happened on any other champion?
I don't think the Skarner was the problem. I wouldn't go so far as to say it wasn't a problem. It's so strong. You saw it here. A couple different impales were massive. Just the amount of time he was able to spend being tanky, getting ganks off in the mid lane. The predict was gorgeous as well. But think about what they got for it, right? You get yourself the Vi, very strong, ended up actually having a very good look on it for WeiWei during the early stages of the game. You get yourself the Varus. Like we said, Photic had a great game on it, and I think the Varus one of the strongest things that you were able to get. They traded it for 2 power picks. I understand the place of giving the Skarner over in the draft. It just unfortunately does still kind of feel like Red side needs to be getting rid of it.
Yeah. You know, I look through some of these replays and I'm like, wow, you know, LNG, they did look like a competent team. They looked like a team that could escape Nirvana, perhaps. You know, maybe, perhaps the headline could be incorrect. And, you know, I would venture to say, I think they played a bit of a better game than LGD played against IG. Do you feel the same? Because I think it was kind of similar in both sides.
Yeah, I think both of the teams showed a decent performance versus what are much better opponents. But I would agree, actually, this game felt a lot closer for a lot longer than it did. Unfortunately for LGD, there was a good 10 minutes of that game where I was like, right, it's done. We're closing things up, but, you know, the Nexus hasn't fallen. It still feels like it's well on its way. Whereas it was right up until the very end of this one where I was like, there's a chance. LNG still seem like they're kind of involved in this one. They're still finding kills. The team fights were all messy in a good way for LNG. And the fact is that LGD are pretty good at throwing mid-game leads. Something LNG, they haven't really even been able to get themselves mid-game leads so far. If they play an early game like this, I could see an upset happening there.
All right, so now we got to start asking who the MVP was, because I've been watching these replays. Dude, I think Scout played out of his mind this game. Yeah. His seismic shoves, his Weaver's walls, like, you know, that seismic shove right there as he got hit by the Ambessa ult just to force Haichao out of there. Like, I think dude played a really, really good game.
Yeah, he was doing work for the team. The seismic shoves were just constantly catching people, which oftentimes in big, messy team fights is a little bit easier to hit them, as we've been saying. But at the same time, there are a lot of champions with decent tools to try to get away from the seismic shoves, and it just didn't matter. And the cutoffs with the ulti as well, it was really well done. Everybody played an okay game, other than Missing, who was getting himself caught a little bit, but still, I would... Twice, okay. You know what, it's once less than I think he did on the Leona. Like, that's an improvement, hey. We take small wins nowadays.
He's gone from really bad to not as bad. The Scout does get the MVP for this game. Well-deserved, big damage share. Obviously, the numbers are pretty gaudy, but I mean, this guy has continuously been one of the best. And he sticks a dagger in the heart of his former team. That's just cold-blooded, man.
It really is. An incredibly well-played game out of Scout, and we're excited to see what he can do throughout the rest of today, because he's going to be a critical part of JDG. If they want any hope of being able to take down IG, he's going to have to step up. It's a tough matchup to play up against IG, but still, incredibly impressive performance from him.